Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday, October 7th, 2020 meeting of the Lebanon Utility Service Board. Let the record reflect that all board members are present tonight and there was a working session prior and that the meetings were appropriately notified. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item tonight is the approval of the minutes from the September 23rd, 2020 meeting. Everyone had a chance to review the minutes?
I make a motion we approve the minutes.
Second that motion.
Motion made by Bill, seconded by Jim to approve the minutes from the September 23rd, 2020 meeting. Any other questions or discussion about the minutes? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next item tonight is the Economic Development Report and the request for financial support. Molly Whitehead's here. Hi, Molly. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, well, good evening, Molly Whitehead, or good afternoon again. It's only 5. I'm Molly Whitehead. I'm Executive Director of the Boone County Economic Development Corporation. And just want to come here again. We usually come here about once a year to make our annual financial request of the Lebanon Utilities, which has long supported the Boone EDC. More so, we're very thankful just for our continued partnership with Lebanon Utilities. The work we do in economic development, it is absolutely critical that we have solid partners in our utilities, Lebanon Utilities being one of them. We cannot respond to those requests for proposals from companies. I'm going to remove this for a second. We can't respond to those requests for proposals from companies. We can't attract companies here if we don't get not only just those initial answers from Lebanon Utilities. We want to make sure that we can meet the needs and demands that companies may have. But also once we're here, we want to make sure that that all of their supply and demand is being met. So with that, we just thank you for your continued partnership. If you'll flip over to page 2, just like to give you a very brief presentation of where we've been, where we're going. Kind of mixing it up a little bit this year, you'll see on your, actually not page 2, you have a different one than I do, the first real slide, what we do. We've kind of created a character here to just make it a little more relatable. This is Bob, who we're calling Bob. Just kind of taking a different storytelling approach here. So imagine this, we recruited Bob's employer, the Boone EDC recruited Bob's employer here to Lebanon. It's a life sciences company, has a strong R&D component. Bob's employer invested in a greenfield site, meaning he built a building completely from scratch. That increased the assessed value of the land that was there and the surrounding land. That increased value led to more commercial, more industrial growth coming and more tax dollars coming to the area. For Lebanon Utilities, that is not only an additional industrial client that is using power, water, sewer, but that trickle-down effect that we see as well. For the taxing entities, that allows them to provide for needs and wants, sidewalks, trails, public safety, community amenities. Ultimately, this reduces the tax burden that residential users may have, helps us also create those unique placemaking opportunities to bring in those companies. But in Bob's case, Bob noticed how great it was, decided he was tired of commuting from outside of Boone County, wanted to come in here. He decides to go ahead and build a house. So for the taxing entity, that creates obviously local income tax dollars that are coming in, property taxes, but for Lebanon Utilities, that's another residential user that you are supplying. So again, ultimately this strengthens our labor pool, and we just continue this cycle over and over. That's really how the Boone EDC works and how we partner with you all. The next slide there, since we kind of come in, quarter 3, quarter 4 every year, we like to give a kind of a wrap up of the previous year. So you'll see the estimated fiscal impact of 2019 projects. We announced 7 projects last year with and over a 10-year period. That was about $113 million in new capital investment, and more than $5.3 million in what we anticipate the tax impact will be over that 10-year period. For Lebanon specifically, Lebanon Utilities specifically, the biggest user we announced back in 2019 was, then it was under the name of U.S. Corrugated. It's now going by McKinley Packaging. They located in the former ConAgra building and went from being a distribution facility into actually manufacturing. So that's a significantly heavier user than what you may have had there previously. Now, fast forwarding to 2020, what we have seen this year, it's certainly been a different year. We have announced 3 projects year to date. I have many more in the pipeline. I'm just waiting for them to give me the go-ahead. But we've seen over $60 million in capital investment, so we've seen larger, more significant projects this year, and over $5 million impact. Lead activity, those are the prospects that are considering our area. That has been all over the board this year. As you'll see, 107 leads received this year alone. That is down from what we saw in 2019. Had COVID not hit, we probably would have anticipated receiving a fewer number of leads last year or this year anyway, because it is a presidential cycle, and generally that just breeds a little bit of hesitancy from the companies wanting to make any decisions. But you'll see there 51 in quarter 3 that we received. It was incredibly busy, so to receive nearly half of our lead activity just in a few months was significant, and it was a breath of fresh air for us given how slow things got in the middle of COVID. So our other work, aside from just bringing in companies, is equally as important. So I just want to make sure I run through kind of the other programs that we work on. We do have a Propel program. That's what our former microloan program was considered. We raised over $200,000 in quarter 2 of this year for that microloan program. So those are small scale loans to businesses. We have made out 4 loans for that. So if you are aware of any small businesses in Boone County, even startups that may be potentially interested in that fund, please make sure that they know that that's a resource. We even have 0% interest loans available. One of those has been made in Lebanon, won't be made public here for another couple weeks, but excited to have a new user there. You'll see workforce development initiatives that we've done in community development. I'm excited for our day of service that is tomorrow, so better connecting our partners. With that, I'll wrap up. We understand that these are difficult financial times for all sorts of organizations and entities, but the work of economic development, it is a marathon, and we believe that investing in economic development is even more important today than it might have been in a couple years past. So with that, I would respectfully request continued investment in the Boone EDC, and again, thank you for your partnership. Would be happy to answer any questions that you have.
See, Molly, the $200,000 funding for the Propel program, did that come from the pandemic relief bill primarily?
No.
What's the source of those funds?
It came from a variety of funds. The Boone EDC, we already had a microloan program that had been in effect for 10 years, so we took what money we had in that, rolled it into there. We also sought out private donations, so Monasol here in Lebanon contributed $25,000 to that account. We had a couple of other Allman Johnson CPAs contributed about $1,000. Duke Energy contributed money to that, $5,000 to that fund, and then money came in from the city of Lebanon, the town of Whitestown, and the town of Zionsville.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Molly? Molly, thank you for your presentation and for being here.
Thank you.
Board, if anyone has any discussion or anyone wants to make any motions, we can entertain either at this time.
I would move to continue to support the Economic Development Committee by both physically and financially for 2020 through 2021.
Second that.
Motion made by Dan, seconded by Jim to continue to support the EDC both physically and financially for the 2021 year. Any other discussion?
Well, how much, what kind of amount of money are we talking about financially?
Do we have a baseline ed or a history or a?
It was $8,000 last year.
$8,000, okay.
And
That sounds, I was gonna say 7,500, I thought it was
from
8,000.
2015 to 2018, it was 7,500.
Okay.
And 2019, it was 8,000. Before that, it was less.
So what amount are we voting on?
They have recommendations based on, you know, the year, suggestions from the board.
Ann? Yeah.
I made the motion that we support them economically and physically. I didn't have a number in mind. I know that we're struggling as a result of the COVID. I mean, our collectibles are terrible. They're at an all-time high.
Neil, what's
Any
your thoughts?
I was going to ask Aaron too for his input first, and or
Should we stay with the 8? Aaron?
I'm not a good one to ask because I'm going to vote no, so I think you should ask other folks.
Bill, what's your suggestion?
Well, if it was 75, I guess I'm in favor of staying at 75. 7,500?
And was it 8,000 for 2019?
Yes. Because, I mean, the utilities, we are struggling somewhat. So, and we went from 75 to 8,000, that was a 7% increase. So
Sure.
I'd say 7,500 would be my
Maybe
recommendation.
back it down to 7,500 again, given
Yes.
the year. Anybody have any concerns with that or okay with that?
I certainly have concerns with our financial position, but I certainly want to continue to support. So, yeah, I'm fine at the 75.
Okay.
So,
Jim, you be comfortable? Any suggestions from you?
I'm not really happy with the 75, but I'll go with it.
Okay. Well, and Aaron, I didn't hear, your last comment was you would recommend something lower or no support or some support or?
Guess you could say I have a policy heartburn a little bit that we're donating public money to an entity whose finances are not open to the public. And I just have from a public policy standpoint, that gives me pause.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we have some, that we might want to back the donation down, given the year we've had from our 8,000 last year.
Right.
Bill mentioned 7,500. I know Jim and Dan have maybe a concern that that's a little high. Aaron too. What if I throw out 6,000 and that backs it up, but it still shows some contribution? I'm just making a suggestion.
I would go along with the 6,000.
You guys feel better about 6 rather than 7,500, or if you have other suggestions of other amounts, feel free.
I don't think I want to go below that right now.
Okay.
What'd you say, Dan?
I'm sorry. Yeah, these masks are terrible. And I mumble anyway, so I apologize. I wouldn't want to go below 6,000.
Okay. I agree.
Okay.
Jim, you agree?
No,
You don't agree?
but that's okay.
Too much?
Too little
Too little?
for what they do.
Well, we have a motion on the table to, and a second to continue support, so I'm going to throw maybe a middle of the roader out there. We've had 7,500, we've had 6,000. What about 7,000? Is that I mean, it shows support even in a tough year.
I'll amend my motion to 7,000.
All right, I'll go along with the 7,000.
Okay, so we have an amended motion from Dan for 7,000. Jim, you want to second that, or?
Yeah.
Okay, and a second from Jim, and we have any further discussion before we vote? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
All right, that motion carries for 7,000 to EDC.
Thank you
Molly.
very much, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Molly.
Okay, next on the agenda is Ryan Ottinger with, I'm sure, some wisdom to share with us. Looks like he'll be presentation for F.R.O.G. You're gonna have to tell us what that is, Ryan.
I will. I do want to, for the record, note that this is the second meeting in a row that I have not come to anyone for money. So this is just for informational purposes. So nobody has to worry. At this point in time, I cannot make promises for the future. So let's just enjoy this.
So F.R.O.G are going to make us money then?
Well, I can't promise that either, but I can promise that I'm not asking for any as of this meeting. What I want to talk to everyone about, and let me see if I can, there it is part of our sanitary sewer overflow prevention is a F.R.O.G program. And this is not a new initiative, but kind of a rekindled one that we have noticed due to COVID has caused some unique concerns in our system. And so I kind of wanted to just kind of let everybody know, let the public know what can and cannot go into our sewer systems. If anybody has any questions throughout, just please don't hesitate to ask. What does F.R.O.G stand for? The F is for fats. That includes, this is aimed at all dwellings, so residential, businesses and restaurants, large commercial, small commercial, anything that is connected to our sewer system. So the fats could be fats in foods, cooking fats, deep fat fryers, cookie pastries. When they dry out, if anybody's had any that have dried out, can just turn to concrete. So if you put them down your drain, or a business were to put them down a drain and not enough water gets to it, they can harden up and be almost like a brick when it's dried out. Rags, that can include washcloths, feminine hygiene products, paper towels, the wipes that say flushable on them that are absolutely not flushable, should not be flushed down the drain, should be thrown away in a trash can. And what we have noticed more recently is the disposable masks. They have become a large problem in our sewer system and our lift stations. Lift stations are what bring the wastewater to the wastewater plant. They are wrapping around our pumps, causing the pumps to heat up and kick offline, usually never at a convenient time. It's never at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday. It seems like it's always at night or on a weekend or something like that. So it's costing us time, it's costing us financial resources, and it's costing us manpower dedicating to problems that we don't normally experience. So the disposable masks have become a problem, and they've even become a problem, not to confuse anything, but I read an article where they became a stormwater issue also, as people walk out of whatever dwelling business or that requires a mask, they take it off, throw it down, it gets washed onto the storm drains, kind of filter on top of each other, and they don't allow stormwater to pass through, and can cause flooding, or it can go down the storm drain and into the public waterways. So it's becoming a problem in many areas. So a disposable mask definitely just needs to go, when you're done with it, into the trash. The O is for oils. That includes all cooking oils, but it also includes motor oil. You would be surprised at how many drains that are connected to our sewer where somebody is changing the oil in their garage or have an improper hookup and are dumping used motor oil some oils from heat lamps, any oil product, we've all seen the diagram of oil and water not mixing, and that's basically what we get into, and it clogs up the plumbing for the homeowner or for the property owner, and it also will eventually plug up ours. And it also has a major effect on our wastewater plant to where that oil kills the bugs, the natural bacteria that we have to treat wastewater. It will kill it and cause major ramifications down the line in our plant. Grease, not only improper household grease disposal, but grease traps in restaurants. We do have a grease trap program for new buildings, but we want to increase our inspections for the grease traps for some of the older restaurants, some of the older buildings, or if a building is remodeled and a restaurant is put in, to make sure that they're following the proper protocol, make sure that it's being dumped properly. Having a grease trap is one thing, making sure it's hauled away, going to an appropriate landfill or to an appropriate site is a different thing. Installing a grease trap and then disposing of it down the drain or in the backyard is not, obviously, it's still not okay. So the inspection process we would like to improve. This is just a quick diagram of what can happen with just basic, baking grease or anything that you put down, a homeowner puts down a sink. It causes problems and it causes backups in the house, and if it's on the property owner's side of the wastewater line or the sewer connection line, to get someone out to clean that line out would be hundreds, possibly thousands of dollars, depending on the amount of backup. And then by the time, if it does happen to get to us, it is also costing hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars for us to deal with it if a pump goes bad. So it is a very costly scenario, just putting grease or anything inappropriate. I would not recommend. You have garbage disposals that are installed, and you can go to Menards and you get some big beefy ones with large horsepower. I would not recommend putting anything down there. It does chew it up and allow it to go into your sewer line and into your lateral, but that does not guarantee that it's going to make it to the sewer main, and it does not guarantee that sewer main is going to be able to transport it to the wastewater plant, and does not guarantee that the wastewater plant can take care of it. So anything like that can be thrown away needs to be thrown away. If you have a grease in a pan, you can let it cool and easily with a spatula or a scraper scrape it into a container or a trash can, and once it's cool, and just throw it away with your normal trash. The F.R.O.G program committee that we just started up includes some members of the Lebanon Utilities, and we do have a consultant if we need. Tony Green is a wastewater treatment plant certified operator, and he's also our pre-treatment coordinator. So he is active with all the large industries that fall under not only our sewer use ordinance, but some IDM permitting. So he is a familiar face with them. So the education with them, I think the process can be sped up with Tony on board. Cameron Kearney is a wastewater collections operator level 4 with about 4 or 5 years experience. And he is a gentleman that would be your boots on the ground guy that is actually servicing the lift stations. He's on call. He's the day-to-day guy that has to see these problems. Corey Rowland is newer, but he is a level 1 certified, and he is very gung-ho and very excited about the opportunity to be on this committee. And he is also just recently took call, so he will be the guy who gets called out. So anything he can do to help eliminate this problem, he's all for also. Myself, and then Amy Harvell from Wessler Engineering. She has orchestrated a few of these with different communities, so she's very knowledgeable. She also helped author our sewer use ordinance, and she is very involved in our pretreatment program, and also does accompanies on all the pretreatment inspections, the yearly inspections that we have to do, and is a great consultant for us on the pretreatment and the wastewater side. And if we need her expertise, will be a great consultant for this project also. Some of our goals, not limited, obviously, but eliminate sanitary sewer overflows. When this gets into the main line, or if it blocks up a lift station or part of the sewer, it can cause sanitary sewer overflow, and that can go into people's yards, people's homes, on the streets, on the sidewalks. Obviously, that is something that the Lebanon Utilities wants to eliminate 100%, and this can be a contributor toward that. That goes along with improper waste entering the sewer lines. I think just with education, we can eliminate quite a bit of that. Education on proper disposal of items. A lot of people just don't know what to do with it if they don't put it. If they've always just put it down the sink or flushed it down the toilet, is there a different way to get rid of it? I think education helps with that. Also, the goal is to help homeowners and business owners save money and avoid costly backups. Having somebody come out to clean out your sewer line is different than having a plumber come out, and could potentially be much more expensive, and potentially have your front yard or backyard dug up. And if it's 10 degrees out, it's not going to be cheap for anybody involved. And then community involvement, educating the community on what they can do, what to avoid, what pitfalls to avoid. Currently, we have started doing bi-monthly committee meetings. Oops, sorry about that. Let's go back. Bi-monthly committee meetings. We are doing an overall wastewater study with Butler, Fairman, and Seifert. So we are trying to identify trouble areas in the collection system so we can focus some of our improved education in those areas. Website development. We will have a link. Eventually, we want to develop a link to Lebanon Utilities that they can go to, someone can go to specifically for some of the items that we've talked about, and some educational tips and how to get rid of stuff, just to make it a little bit easier. And educating the industrial businesses and restaurants throughout town. We can't expect them to know everything that we know, because that is not their focus, it is ours. So we want to educate them, and anything we can do to educate them and their employees on proper disposal will help us in the long run. In the future, we want to do some school-age education. I think when we get kids involved and they can kind of look over the shoulder and tell their parents not to do this and not to do that, I think it is pretty effective. And also, I think we're building long-time knowledge. As they get older and they own their own home, they'll already have that knowledge to where they're maybe not making some of the same mistakes that homeowners like myself have made in the past. Booths and display at local events, home shows. When we have that, we can offer some educational opportunities. Promotional material, get some scrapers, some pan scrapers for when we have new customers come online. We can give to them new residents with projected to have 300 or 400 new homes next year. So that's an opportunity to educate a lot of people and let them start off a new home disposing of things the proper way. Website updates, I don't want it to get stale. I'd like to keep updates and keep new content there, and social media. Facebook is so popular and such a great tool to get out quick information and how-to tips. I think we need to utilize that. And then a F.R.O.G ordinance that we can improve on. We have some language now, but I think we can make some improvements on it. But I think that's for the future as we start learning what some of the pitfalls are, some of what major trouble areas we have. We can be a little bit more focused on that. I just think it's too early right now to do anything but to start the education process. These are some improper disposal results this is just residential. And you can see the picture in the very middle, top row, very middle, and the bottom left is grease. It is just household grease, oil buildup, and you can see that on the bottom left that there is absolutely nothing getting through there. So as that line fills up with waste, it's got to find a place to go, and that place is going to be back through the home, back through the path of least resistance. Could be a toilet overflow, could be the kitchen sink, could be the dishwasher, whatever is the easiest for it to that waste to move. So that does take some time, but you would be surprised how fast, especially when it gets cold, that grease will solidify. Even if scalding hot water is rinsing it down the drain, that pipe cools pretty fast, especially plastic cools pretty fast if you're under a crawl space, or when it gets into the yard. It's not going to take long for that grease to solidify. Lift stations. You can see on the left and right. On the left is the majority of everything on the left is disposable, flushable wipes. And you can see by that picture, there is nothing flushable or disposable about them. The same goes for on the right-hand side. And that is what wraps around our propellers. That's what wraps around our pumps and causes, best case scenario, causes a massive inefficient pump that will use more electricity for less efficiency, just because it's got to overcome that. Usually it heats up. In best case scenario in that situation is it blows a breaker and we get called out to unclog it. Worst case scenario, the breaker does not blow, burns up a pump. Pumps are in the thousands of dollars, and that's just to purchase the pump. That has nothing to do with installation or repairs that it could cause down the line. And then you can see in the middle there, that is grease buildup. That should be a liquid. That is not, that's a solid. You can see the wiring and part of the pump that has been dislodged because of the grease buildup that's just laying on top. So, when you see it like that, you can understand how critical this can be. I know I went through that pretty fast. That was quite a bit of information for everyone. Are there any questions that I might be able to answer now or look for in the future when I can provide an update?
I'd just like to say I like the ongoing nature of the committee plans, that this is not going to be a one-off kind of thing, that it's going to be an ongoing education effort, and I think that that's an important thing, and I'm glad you headed in that direction.
Thank you. Yeah, I learned from when my kids were both at Central Elementary. They came home and wanted to start a recycling program at the house, and that was back when you had to separate everything by the numbers. So we had about 15 trash cans all spread out, and I thought, that they'll kind of get over it here in a couple weeks like they do a lot of stuff, and they did not. They were into it, and now it's just what we do. Now it's much easier, and Lebanon has a great program, but it just over time just became second nature to just throwing stuff in the trash can. And so that kind of stuck with me, that if we can get the young kids involved and get them excited about something and kind of police the parents. They love to do that anyway. Catch the parents making a mistake like that. So I think that is very important. So yeah, thank you, Aaron, for that.
I like the idea too, of flyers or something, even if it's statements to these new houses that say, hey, your pipes are new, here's how you can keep them that way. Educate people who may not have a clue.
And we do have money in the budget that I put in the budget under promotion for this. So if we wanted to add something to our bills, the billing process, add a mailer in there. There's a lot of things we could do. We've talked about getting, OSHA has posters that a lot of the big industries will post in their break room that have to be displayed. Maybe getting some promotional, some of the larger posters that we can put in the break room that where when someone would take a hairnet off per se or something like that, they would dispose of it properly, or anything we can do to, let people know and kind of have some information. I'd like to have some flyers. We have flyer availability in the front when people come in to pay their bills downstairs in the billing department. Maybe stuff some flyers in there to where if somebody's waiting in line or whatever, they could just grab something and read on it and get a little bit of education on that.
All right, anything else for Ryan?
Nope.
Thank you, Ryan, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good info. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, next item we have are approval of the claims. We have everybody had a chance to review the claims, and if so, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve the claims dated October 7th, 2020 in the amount of $412,267.78.
Second.
Motion made by Jim, seconded by Bill to approve the claims dated October 7th, 2020. in the amount of $412,267.78. Any questions or discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Any opposed? All right. Next item is any other business for the board. Anybody have anything for the board before we go to the public?
So I'd like to report on a job site visit I made recently. Jeff Greeno arranged for me to spend the morning on October 1st with the Jeff McNew electrical crew. The crew was working to upgrade the electrical service in the vicinity of the Steak and Shake. A new overhead feed was being provided on 6 new poles to new underground lines connected to new ground transformers. A trenching contractor had already completed the underground work. I attended the pre-job safety meeting. Plans had been made to connect the new service lines to the area businesses at times to minimize outage interruptions. I want to thank Jeff McNew, line foreman, Evan Cully, apprentice line worker, Matt Myhill, journey line worker, and Dustin Shirley, electric operations supervisor, for my informative visit on October the 1st. Our electric crews perform detailed and strenuous work in all kinds of weather. They are highly trained and dedicated to our community, and I appreciate the opportunity to see them at work.
Thank you, Aaron. Thanks, Jeff. Anybody have anything else?
I do have one item. Just by way of update, as you recall, with the town of Ulen and the electric system, a couple of weeks ago, we were charged with providing Ulen with a deadline to provide the executed memorandum of understanding and easements necessary to start the rear yard design and install project. Today was the deadline to receive those, and the last we have not received either of those items. The last communications that Ed and I have had with members of their town council were the last week, Wednesday and Tuesday respectively. So we will obviously reach out to make sure there was not some issue. But as it stands now, this week or early next, we will advise Alpha to stop the rear yard design in hopes to cap that expense and turn them loose on the front yard design, as it appears as though that's the direction that this is headed in. If there's any updates or changes, we will let you know at the next board meeting.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Anybody have anything else? Any public comment? All right, looks like our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, October 21st at 5 p.m. And if there is nothing else for the good of the order, we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second?
By Bill, second by Aaron to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we stand adjourned. Thank you.